Hello and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be looking at a stealth character versus an investigative one in our first ever two-player tabletop roleplay. In this corner, weighing in at 180 pounds of pure muscle with a black belt in judo is the Prowler. And in this corner, weighing in at 150 pounds of pure snarky attitude with a black belt in investigative journalism is the Question. Let the facts speak. The Question had heard rumors about the Prowler. Rumors from people who worked for him, usually as hired muscle or sometimes as guides, when he went off on his little weekend excursions. Apparently, he was called the Prowler because he liked to prowl around rooftops, getting into places that were considered off-limits. They said he was good, that much was certain, but they also said he was sloppy, reckless, and he left witnesses. Now, the Question didn't believe most of what he heard, but if there was one thing he was absolutely sure of, it was that this man was somehow involved in the disappearance of a famous socialite named Isabella Rossi, because the Question had received an anonymous tip saying that the Prowler had broken into her home, beaten her up a little bit, then disappeared into thin air. Well, actually, that wasn't true. The Prowler did break into her house, but she wasn't there. He did beat someone up a little bit, but it was her private investigator, who got one look at him and promptly passed out. The only reason why the Prowler disappeared into thin air was because he had used a grappling hook to swing onto the fire escape and then climbed onto the roof. Oh yeah, while the Question stood behind the wheel of his car outside the house, watching the Prowler disappear over the edge of the building, he thought back to the tip he had received. It came from a contact known only as Fingers. Now, Fingers could be pretty dodgy, but he also knew that the socialite had been mixed up with some dangerous people lately, including men who went by names like Knuckles and Ox. Names like that meant nothing to the Question, but he knew that the Prowler would know who they were. So if anyone could lead him to the missing woman, it was him. He just needed to get close enough to ask him. The Question had tracked the Prowler to a dingy bar in the worst part of town, the kind of place where the bouncer looked like he had showered in a week and the bartender looked like he had slept in one. It was the perfect kind of place for the type of person the Question was looking for, which is why he felt right at home. After ordering a whiskey and soda, he took a seat at the bar and waited. It didn't take long for the Prowler to walk through the door. In fact, he was practically vibrating with barely contained energy, which made the Question wonder how much the guy had had to drink already. The way he moved, all sharp angles and predatory grace. It reminded the Question of a big cat, but it was the face that really caught his attention. There was something about the way the streetlights glinted off his jawline that sent a jolt of recognition through him. And then it hit him. This was the same guy he had seen leaving Isabella Rossi's house. Not 2 minutes after the Prowler had slid onto the bar stool next to him, the Question leaned in and introduced himself. He explained that he was looking for the Prowler, who apparently had visited the bar earlier that night. And while he was grateful for the assistance, the bouncer wasn't very talkative, which prompted the Question to do a little investigation of his own. What he found in the bathroom was a half-empty bottle of Jack Daniels and a business card with the name Alex on it. Now, the Question wasn't stupid. He had put together who the Prowler really was, even before he found the bottle and the card, but it was nice to confirm his suspicions. Now, the Question was no stranger to dealing with people who had secrets they wanted to keep hidden. So when he approached the bar and slid onto the stool next to the Prowler, he knew exactly what to say. "I'm not here to make trouble," he said, flashing his badge. "I just need to ask you a few questions about a case I'm working on." The Prowler raised his head slowly, his eyes narrowed slightly, clearly surprised by the sudden appearance of a cop. "Okay," he said cautiously, "what can I help you with?" "The missing socialite." The Prowler nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know her." "How well?" The Prowler hesitated, then sighed. "Well enough to have had dinner with her a couple of times," he admitted. "She's a friend of mine." "And you were at her house the night she disappeared?" Yeah, I was there," the Prowler confirmed, "but I left early. I wasn't there when she disappeared." The Question leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low growl. "Don't play games with me, pal. I know you were there. I saw you leave. You think I'm stupid?" The Prowler recoiled slightly, taken aback by the intensity of the detective's stare. I didn't play any games," he stammered. I really left early. "I swear." The Question wasn't convinced, but he decided to press his advantage. "All right," he said, leaning back and taking a sip of his drink. "Let's say I believe you. What's your connection to Miss Rossi?" The Prowler hesitated, then sighed again. "Like I said, We're friends, he admitted. We met a few months ago. She needed some protection. Protection from what? The Prowler shook his head slowly. I don't know, he said finally. She never really said. She just said she needed someone to watch her back. So I did. The Question knew that the Prowler was hiding something, but he also knew that pushing him too hard would only make things worse. So he decided to change tactics. Look, he said, I'm not going to hurt you. Okay, I just need some information. That's all. If you help me find Miss Rossi, I'll cut you loose. No charges. Nothing. Just tell me what I need to know, and we'll call it even. The Prowler considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, he said. You've got yourself a deal. As the Prowler spoke, the Question listened intently, taking down notes and asking follow-up questions whenever something didn't quite add up. As the conversation continued, a picture began to form in the Question's mind. Isabella Rossi had been involved with some dangerous people who were willing to do whatever it took to protect their interests. Why were these people so desperate to keep her quiet? The Question knew that the answers to those questions could put him in a lot of danger, but he was determined to find out. As the night wore on, the Question learned more about the Prowler, his real name, Alex, his martial arts training, and his reputation as a master of disguise. But it was the information he gave about Isabella Rossi that was the most important. Alex had been hired to protect her, but he had been unable to prevent her from being kidnapped. The kidnappers had been professional, well-trained and ruthless. He had done his best to stop them, but he had been outnumbered and eventually captured. The Question knew that Alex was being truthful, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Why had the Prowler been hired to protect Isabella Rossi? And why had he been captured? The Question needed more information. As dawn began to break, the Question knew that he had to act fast. With a newfound sense of urgency, he thanked Alex for his help and promised to keep in touch. Then he got into his car and raced out of the parking lot. Alex watched him go, his face grave. He knew that the Question was in danger, but he also knew that he couldn't help. The world of corporate espionage was a dangerous one, and he had already put himself in too much danger by helping the police. He just hoped that the Question would be careful. As the Question drove, he thought about everything he had learned from the Prowler. He had a lot of leads to follow up on, but he knew that time was of the essence. If Isabella was still alive, she wouldn't be for long. He had to find her before it was too late. He knew that this could be a trap, but he couldn't afford not to take the risk. As he parked his car and slipped inside, he knew that he was about to enter the lion's den. To be continued. So who do you think won the fight? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tabletop roleplay adventures. Thanks for watching.